Liz, do you feel comfortable talking about what you're feeling?
I'm pissed!
I think it was one of the most raw moments, if not the most raw moment I've ever seen on the show.
And this is just me reaching a breaking point on national TV. I was there to win. I had a million reasons, right? Because the prize is $1 million. What is she doing starting a business when she didn't go to business school? I just am the type of person that does whatever she wants, and she puts her mind to something. She does it. How can we create a little bit of intrigue without being just misleading or very clickbaity?
You're listening to the Real Business Connections Network. Real Business Connections Network. Powered by Balbert Marketing, LLC. Subscribe now and check us out at realbusinessconnections.com. Enjoy the show.
Liz, do you feel comfortable talking about what you're feeling?
I'm pissed! Y'all say you ain't gone without eating? I see you eat every day. Q, you almost blew up my whole game. You overshadowed everything I was trying to do. And I said it's cool. I didn't say nothing.
Okay, so Liz, what's happening there?
I'm just a hungry girl, is all. And I was just denied food. And I think just everything that I had been feeling and not saying, just, you ever heard of word vomit? That's what's happening right there from lack of nutrition, truly.
Well, and it's Survivor, 46, season 46.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like allergic or couldn't digest a lot of the food. So like you legit were hungry, right?
Yeah. So I went on Survivor and a lot of people, they laugh at me. What is she doing on Survivor if she can't eat? And, I find that's the same thing in business. Oh, what is she doing starting a business when she didn't go to business school? I just am the type of person that does whatever she wants, and when she puts her mind to something, she does it. So yeah, I couldn't eat the main source of food, which is coconut. And I just happened to get on a season where when the time comes on this show where they introduce rice and you can negotiate for food, my teammates, my tribe mates, we failed the negotiation, so to speak. So we didn't get the sustenance that every other contestant, player, tribe season has gotten in the 23 years before. So at this point in the game, I can't remember exactly what day it is. Maybe, I don't know, day 18, day 20, something like that. I had eaten probably less than 1,000 calories in those 18 or 20 days. And this is just me reaching a breaking point on national TV.
So we won't give away too many spoilers because I want people to go watch Survivor season 46. We kind of gave a spoiler that you made it to at least 18 days. You're pissed because, again, one more preface for someone who hasn't seen it yet. Like, wasn't it like a Applebee's cheeseburger? And there was like, it was more than just Liz is hungry. It's like Liz is being emotionally toyed with is the feeling I got from that scene.
I really appreciate that. Yeah. So I have a tradition with my daughter. My daughter's favorite show is Survivor. That's the reason why I got on the show. She dared me to apply. And we always go to Applebee's. Applebee's is the sponsor of Survivor. It's like the one sponsorship that they've held on to all these years. And so my daughter at the time thought that Jeff Probst, the host, thought that this is the host's favorite restaurant. And so we would go every Wednesday night before we watched. And it was no joke. The reward we were being given was Applebee's, but it wasn't just Applebee's. It was the exact hamburger that I order every single week. And during the game, I really was trying not to think about my daughter, trying not to think of my family. I was there to win. I had a million reasons, right? Because the prize is $1 million. I had a million reasons to compartmentalize that part of my life. And so when they brought out the hamburger, It was the exact burger that I order every single week. Not only was I starving, it was, like Ben said, this emotional connection. And when it was taken away from me, I there's no other way to put it. I snapped.
And we won't stay on Survivor the whole time. I just thought like you had told me you had only like watched this. You were there. You lived it. You watched it when it was live. And so have you went back and rewatched everything? So that little part's become a gift. Like you're the I'm pissed girl and I love you for it. I think it was one of the most raw moments, if not the most raw moment I've ever seen on the show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it's definitely a top 10 moment of realness, rawness, for sure. And it's probably the top moment, in the last decade, I would say, especially with the era of social media. A lot of players are a little more aware. I don't want this to be shown on TV because on social media, it could be portrayed this way or the other. So we're definitely more aware of the fact that, we are filming a TV show. But, and maybe this is one of the reasons Ben and I have connected and why I'm on Real Business Connections is I am just a very real person. What you get is what you get. And that might be different one day to the next, right? I'm a real human. Sometimes my energy is really high and positive. Sometimes, I'm just not feeling it. So, no, I haven't really gone back and watched too much. I'm the type of person that, with Survivor, with my life, with business, once I do something, unless it was, oh my gosh, how can I replicate that? How can I do it again? I don't really look in the rearview mirror too much. And yeah, I love that it's become this entity. It wasn't the legacy I was seeking, but it's definitely a legacy for sure. And I love meeting people that, saw it and said, yeah, it was like you were being emotionally toyed with, or I'm so glad to see a woman show true emotions and, not be penalized for it. Cause I know we said no spoilers, but I don't go home that night. I remain in the game. People forgive me. We all move on. So that's been amazing. But do I need to watch every second back? No, I know my character. I know what I did out there, but I also know it's a TV show and there's 17 other players. And so I'm not the star of the show, so to speak. And so I know it's edited. It's, made to look a certain way. And I'm firm in who I am. I don't need to go back and rewatch and analyze, etc.
Yeah, I mean, so Survivor season 46, no one person can be the star, but Liz gets to be the star of email. You're the fresh princess of email. You're the star of your businesses. One last Survivor comment, because it was funny. I was watching with my friend to kind of prepare for a conversation, and he said to me, I wonder how many people go on just to try to get rich and famous. And I was like, I don't know the answer to that, but Liz Wilcox was already successful prior to Survivor. It wasn't like you needed it as a publicity stunt. Like you had already scaled businesses far prior to being on the show, right?
Yeah, it's so interesting when people's mind goes there. I can definitely see that for other shows. Like if you're on a dating show but Survivor is incredibly intense. And I was actually accused of, oh my gosh, she's just trying to promote her business, this and that. And I'm like, y'all know like Facebook ads exist, right? Like I could have just run Facebook ads and not lost 14% of my body weight, not been, humiliated on TV, not been screaming like a banshee. And so it's always so fascinating to me when people's mind goes there. I know personally for my season, I do not believe any of us went on there, for stardom. There are much easier shows to get on. Survivor is incredibly real. There's no toilet paper. There's no soap. There's no beds. There's no blankets. It really is Survivor. And so, if you are going to get rich and famous off a reality show, don't choose Survivor. It is terrible.
I'd probably choose the circle or something else that's more like social media-esque.
Right. Even Big Brother,
Big
at least
Brother.
you're in a house. It's a similar game, but you're in a house, right? And you're on TV 3 times a week. So it's a lot more likely that you can propel your fame, right? But to Ben's point, yes, I've already been, successful in my realms. I didn't need Survivor. In fact, the way they portrayed me, there was a huge risk that this could hurt my business, right? Oh, look at her this way. And that was one of the things that I actually was worried about in the first 4 weeks of the show airing. There's 13 episodes, and the first four of them, I looked like this money hungry, very aloof person, or that's what the majority of the audience took me as. And I thought, oh my gosh, do my customers or my customers that are watching this think, oh, wow, I had Liz all wrong. Luckily, I've built such a strong community. Everyone said, wow, I knew reality TV was edited, but this is crazy. Liz, you really are that successful. You're not bragging. You're just talking about your business.
Because you've got me thinking of something I hadn't thought about much lately, but still to this day, even with the growth I've done, around certain groups and family members, I play small. Because to talk about my, top rated podcast or my business or all these things, I feel like I'm being like arrogant or pretentious or not cool or I'm in my own world. So it can almost be like, feel like it's almost like a risk to talk about the fact you've built these businesses because people might judge you for it.
Yeah, and that was one thing I thought a lot about before going on the show, but, one thing that was revealed on the show was how many podcast interviews I do. People were just asking, well, how do you grow your podcast? It wasn't like I was like, yeah, I've been on 200, 300 shows. It was, oh, well, how do you grow your business, Liz? Oh, you don't run ads? That's weird. I said, oh, I've been on, 300 shows or something like that. And of course, everyone said, oh, Liz is a walking billboard. And I find, to Ben's point, certain circles, if you do talk like that, it just seems so larger than life, right? And it does seem like, oh, well, why are they talking about that? Do they think they're better than me or whatever? So I've definitely encountered that in the real world and, in this reality show competition.
Well, luckily, Liz, the listeners want to hear stuff like, how the heck do you grow your business completely organically without ads? Because a lot of us don't have a 50,000, even a 5,000 or $500 a month ad budget. So we want to grow it organically. So answer that question from a high level. Like, so I want to grow my business organically. What do you recommend we start doing?
Yeah. So I always say, visibility, because I'm the email marketing lady. So I want you to grow your email list. And I always say, visibility and list growth go hand in hand. They're like Mary Kate and Ashley, Tia and Tamara Mowry. I know they're different people, but I cannot tell them apart, right? So the more visible you can become in your business, the more your email list is going to grow. And yeah, a lot of companies, businesses, solopreneurs will run ads, but I started out living in an RV. I didn't really have a lot of money. And so I thought about it and I said, well, if I need to be visible, why don't I just make connections with other businesses that are doing the same thing I'm doing or something similar, something adjacent or complementary? And so I would do a lot of guesting, whether it was a guest interview like this or a guest blog post, even things like link swapping. So I share Ben's podcast, he shares mine, or, I share his lead magnet to my email list. He shares my lead magnet to his email list. Just really small, low effort things that help grow the business. That's how I've done it. A lot of podcasting, a lot of guest trainings, etc. And I've been able to grow that way.
So how do you know? I love the concept of collaboration. I preach it all the time, but for the listener, like how do they know who to be collaborating with? Link swaps and podcast swaps or guest blogging and all these, like, how do they determine who to actually be doing this with?
I love this question. A lot of people try to network up, right? Oh, I know Ben has this many downloads. I'm going to try to get to him. But if you just started, it might not be a match for Ben to work with you, right? So how can we decipher who we need to connect with? I like to say network across. Who is doing something similar? Who's in a similar space as you and a similar time as you, right? I've been in business for a year. I've got my podcast, or, I've got my signature offer. I've got a few hundred customers or whatever. Who's someone that's doing something similar, again, adjacent or complementary, that's in the same boat as me? And that's who I decide. So might go on Instagram or LinkedIn and say, okay, who looks like they've got a similar audience and a similar size? And how can we link up? How can we connect with each other and collaborate from there?
So I connect and I'm just like, hey, let's do this thing. Like, what's my long-term vision in it?
Yeah, well, it is, to Ben's point, always beneficial if you come with the idea, right? If you can make it easy for your potential partners to say yes, then you're going to get a lot more yeses, right? So, for example, when I was creating my first product, it was actually a collaboration, and it was an ebook. But I didn't have time to write a book. And so I looked at other bloggers. I said, hey, do you have a funny story about such and such? I was an RV travel blogger. So do you have a story about, your RV travels that maybe didn't go right? You could write a chapter, I'll write a chapter, Ben writes a chapter, etc. And I'll put it all together. You don't even have to edit it. I'm a good writer, just type something up or use a former blog post and maybe expand on it, and just email it to me. I'll format it, I'll edit it, I'll send it to you for the big thumbs up, and let's get something going. I'll even set it up, I'll set the cart up, and I'll turn you into an affiliate. So any books you sell, you get 50% of, right? And I told that to all the partners. I think I had 11 other bloggers be a part of this, but I got the yes because I made it so easy for everyone else.
Mm. So you basically got a whole army of people together to be ambassadors, cheerleaders, and in essence sell it for you so you didn't have to do it alone.
Absolutely. And later, when I wanted to grow my list and my audience, I created a digital summit. And this was before digital summits were really, really big. And I said, hey, let's get together. You do a topic on X, I'll do Y, she'll do Z. Let's get together. Don't worry, I'm going to do all the tech. All you got to do is show up at this link, right? This is already something you talk about. And I did the research. I said, hey, I know your blog is this, or you have a blog post about that, or a podcast episode. Can we just talk about that live for 30 minutes? And again, it's all about just making it super simple for the other person to say yes.
Mm. Can we go a little high level? I want to ask you a trickier one.
Yeah.
I'm curious about secret sauces because I think theoretically we all understand. You collaborate, you find peers, you do stuff together, you find strong points, and we have a more strong whole when there's more of us working at it, and we collaborate, put out content together, we help each other. But I feel like a lot of us do that, and we still actually don't get the kind of success that we envision. And I'm wondering, is there like a secret sauce in like how you're presenting the ideas or how you create the product? Like, I feel like everybody's a content creator and a lot of people have good strategy, but a lot of people, even with good strategy, don't get good results. Have you seen that, or am I misguided, or is there something like, is there a secret sauce that we don't know about?
Yeah, I love this question. I think it's, the sauce has a few different ingredients, right? I
Mm.
think number one, it's all about, having your end goal first, right? So it's not like, oh, I just want to collaborate. Oh, I heard this Liz Wilcox, I'm going to do a summit too, right? What is your end goal? What is success? Is success just having an awesome partner like Ben? And so you have, amazing connections for later? Or is the success a revenue goal? Like I have to make $1,000 from this, or 10,000 or whatever. Or is the success, I want to grow my email list? That's the most important thing. That's really what I'm doing all of this for, right? So begin with the end in mind and then work backwards. Because if it's just about making connections with partners, maybe it can be a little more relaxed. It can just be, how can I make this the coolest thing for Ben to be a part of this year, for Liz to be a part of this year, right? Um, and that will help guide you. I think the second ingredient is patience. The first
Mm.
time you do a collaboration or make a connection, like Ben said, it's probably not going to go the way you think it's going to go. It's not going to be this end all be all. Oh, this was the moment my life changed, right? And so having a little patience, being willing to do it over and over and over again. The first time I hosted that digital summit, yeah, it did okay. We had about 1,000 people. I actually lost money on that because for me, it was about partners. That was the end goal. And I paid my partners out and I did the math wrong. And I said, oh, everybody's going to get X amount. Well, because I did the math wrong, that meant Liz ended up putting into the pot for people, but it was
Yeah.
worth it for me. If I looked at it on paper, oh, this was a giant failure, right? Oh my gosh, I lost money. Don't tell my husband, right? Um, but that led to so many connections. It led to partnerships. It led to sponsors seeing the event, right? And years later, suddenly I'm in I'm in a commercial for one of those sponsors, right? That just happened to see my event on Facebook, right? So it's really, having that patience. And then I think the third ingredient is the resilience, the long-term thinking of, yeah, maybe it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, but I did lay a few more bricks. My foundation is a little firmer. I have more connections, that can lead me to the next project.
This is awesome. Let's set up a fun scenario, Liz. So we have an end goal. We're going to be patient. We're going to be resilient. Let's choose the end goal because this is a reality for me right now and a lot of the people
Yeah.
listening. I want to grow my email list. I
Mm-hmm.
have an email list. This is actually info you probably don't need, but this actually just happened. I went through and anyone who was starred 1 out of 5, I got rid of them already.
Smart.
I haven't used my email list in literally 3 months. So I want to wake up my email list. I want to engage and grow it. I know that I'm in it. For example, Gary Vee wrote the book Jab, 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 Right Hook. I don't even want to jab or right hook anybody. I want to tap, 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 like 15 taps and then a hug. I want to make an offer. I want to make offers, but not every single time. So I want to wake up the list. I want to nurture them. And then I want to be able to extend my hand and make an offer here and then long term. Is my strategy from the start decent, or where do we go from here?
Yeah. So if we're gonna wake up the list, I love the idea of, we're not jabbing, we're not right hooking, maybe we're getting them in the arena, right? Like, hey, you want to come inside? We're passing out the flyers outside of the stadium, so to
Yeah.
speak. Hey, remember you were in here once? And so I think if you haven't emailed in a few months, there's no need to go in and, oh, I'm sorry. This is what I've been doing. No need to explain where you've been. I think we can kind of just jump right in and maybe even do a little reintroduction. But Ben, I've got to know, were you emailing pretty consistently before it kind of went dark, or was it sporadic?
When I began, it was relatively consistent. Then it became sporadic. I host a monthly free event. So then I
Mhm.
started to email once a month, just a one segment about the free event. In the last month, I didn't even send that email. So sporadic, monthly. People probably recognize my email, but monthly would be a good estimate for the current times.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I think we're going to do a reintroduction of Ben. So he wants to send out, I would say maybe 2 or 3 emails, and I would send these out honestly like within a week or 10 days of each other. I tend to be an aggressive person, so I would probably send them day 1, day 2, day 3. But if Ben wants to, be gentle, maybe, day 1, day 4, day 7. And that's just the waking up, the tapping of the shoulder that Ben just said. That's, they're not used to seeing him in the inbox. They might recognize his name, but maybe the first time, they don't open, right? And so if we can get those emails out pretty quickly, oh, he's emailing. Okay, whatever. The next day, oh, he's emailing again. Maybe I'll open. And then even the most reluctant, the sleepiest bears will wake up by the third day. Oh, he's been in I saw that name yesterday. Click. What does he want? Right. And so that's a more gentle, but firm approach, if that makes sense. So in the first email, again, we don't have to explain where we've been. We just tell them, what's coming. Like, hey, Ben Albert here of Real Business Connections. Remember once a month I host da 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 da. Gonna be getting back into that. Just wanted to touch base with you. How's it going? Something like that. You might even give, if he's got, oh, I got this awesome podcast with Liz Wilcox on email marketing. If you don't know her, she's that crazy lady from Survivor. That might get their attention, right? You never know. Put the silly GIF in there and get them to click on something would be really, really good. So again, he can introduce himself. Hey, remember I used to do this, or remember I do this, not used to. Remember I do this, getting back into it, and then say, hey, I'm going to email you again. Then the second email, this is where we share the vision, right? We need to reintroduce what Ben is even doing. Why am I on this bus? Where are we going? Right? This is where Ben shares, hey, I'm from Real Business Connections. This is what I want for you. My vision is you make money with email marketing. I don't care about your podcast. I don't care about crafting your offer. I don't care about your Instagram account. All I care about is that you make money with email marketing, right? That's my vision. That's something that I would say right off the bat here. So Ben, what's your vision for your potential clients and students?
And in a moment, so guys, if you're driving, if you're laying in bed, I understand. But if you're in front of a laptop or a notepad, let's do this together. This isn't just Ben doing this. We can all do this to wake up our email list together. Or if we don't have a big one yet, that's quite all right. We'll wake them up and we'll continue to grow it. So I want everybody to do it. If you're driving, what I like to do is take a little screenshot, and you can come back to the timestamp. It's also in the show notes. So vision for my email, vision for my business,
vision for your students, for your clients, right? Like not for anything to do with you. What do you want the people that give you money to do? What's your vision for them?
So this is interesting. To just simplify, very simply put, I have my podcast. I obviously want people to listen to it. I do marketing for podcasters and thought leaders. Those are big clients. And I have a community called Grow Getters Only, which is it's a light nominal fee to join. And I really want to build that. So that's 3 things. Am I going to be all of nothing if I'm talking about all 3, or do I need to select one specific thing?
I think 1 is best, and I think there's probably a through line, right?
There is.
Like especially, if you've got those bigger clients where you help with podcasting, but also what's going on in the Grow Getters. They probably have, some shared vision. We want to get to X, right? For me, I work with e-commerce. I work with coaches, consultants, service providers, bloggers. They all want to make money with email marketing. So that's my vision for them. Really, really simple. So what are you thinking, Ben?
I like that you mentioned through line. So I don't have to alienate and just choose one, because at the core, my podcast is getting the wisdom from the people who have it to the people who need it. My marketing services is doing the exact same thing. I'm just working with a client. And then the community is for the peer-to-peer support that you talked about earlier. So that is the vision. I want people to have the right information, because this as a marketing expert. There's a lot of gurus out there that are just scammers. They're not good. They don't have experience. And you can spend a lot of money with them and just blow that money and end up in a worse place. I don't want that to happen. So my vision is to get the right information from the people who have it to the people that are looking for it. And one of my thoughts was like to have like a Hump Day Hacks Wednesday email or something where I can give those nuggets of information.
I love that. Yeah. So I think he nailed his vision with, I want to get the wisdom from people who have it to the people who need it. That's so strong. It's pretty darn clear. And then in the second email, he can say that, hey, just wanted to remind you, here's my vision.
Mm.
Here's what I'm doing here. And then he can even elaborate and say, I do this through my podcast, my marketing services, and my Grow Getter community. Peace. Like out. That's the whole email, right? It's just reminding people, what the heck am I doing here, right? Why am I reading this? Oh, I need to get the right info. Oh, Ben's going to facilitate those conversations for me. He's going to be the one to curate that content. Or, if I hire him, he's going to be the one giving me that info that I need. Okay, I'm in, right? Or I can decide I'm out, right? But why would they even join the list in the first place if that didn't make sense to them? I think that's a pretty darn clear vision. So we've got that first email. Hey, this is what I do. This is what we're going on moving forward. We got the second email. Hey, just a reminder, here's what we do around here, right? Here's why we're all in the same place. And then the third email, honestly, I would just pitch or share some of your content, right? This could be where he can elaborate more on the Grow Getters community. Hey, if you want to be a part of this, I am going to do those once a month things, but I just wanted to real quickly remind you of this Grow Getter community or my services. Or you could even just say, listen to the podcast, whatever feels right for you. And then I would just move into those newsletters, those broadcasts that you've been doing.
So I get it. Am I being boring? Do I tell stories? Like, I don't want to be boring. I don't want someone to read it and be like, ugh. Like, I don't want to be boring.
Yeah, I think in these emails, you could put pictures if you want to make that face-to-face connection and not pictures we create in Canva, like a literal picture from your cell phone or something, right? Like if in that third email, he's going to pitch the podcast, maybe he takes a screenshot from the Zoom room with his guest, right? Or maybe, he takes a picture, like a selfie of, him at the desk editing it or sending it out to his editor or whatever, right? I think that's a way of engaging. But here's where I want you to just let that feeling go. What I teach is something called the email staircase. First, we've got a follower, then we turn them into a friend, then we turn them into a customer. These people, they're not our friends yet, right? Especially if we've let it grow cold. We just kind of need to give them the facts. I think an image or maybe even a little personal update, 2 to 3 sentences, that's something personal, is enough to not be boring. But I would want to see these emails be kind of short and to the point, right? These people, maybe they haven't forgotten about you, but they're not thinking about you, right? You're not top of mind quite yet. And so a little picture or a little, hey, checking back in with you. I've got 20 minutes before my next podcast interview, but I didn't want to not email you today. Here's what's up, here's my vision for you. Or maybe even Ben says, hey, I don't want these emails to be boring, but I also kind of want to tell you why I'm emailing you. That kind of just even relieves someone from thinking that, oh, this email is boring. And the last thing I'll say about boring emails is, y'all, it is a newsletter, not a novel, right? If you don't have time to write it, chances are your people don't have time to read it. We go to the inbox for information, right? Where's that bill? Oh, Aunt Sally emailed me. Ben's got a new podcast. Where's the link to that, right? We're not going the same way social media. I'm going to check out and I want the algorithm to serve me, right? The inbox is so, so different. We're going for solutions. Don't worry too much about trying to be interesting. You definitely want to be relatable in the inbox, but relatability is actually really simple. Relating can be, oh, we tried to record this podcast and the internet went out halfway through. You don't even have to tell a story about that. You could just type that one sentence I just said, and suddenly someone's relating, oh, that happened to me too, right? Your mind starts to wander. It could be, oh, I've got 20 minutes before the plumber gets here. My toilet's overflowed, but I wanted to send out this new episode. That's not me telling a story about the way the toilet, but it gets people, oh, yep, I've had that happen. Gosh, Ben must be really stressed, and then they click the link because you've become more relatable. So don't worry too much about trying to be interesting or not boring. The inbox is for solutions, quick personal updates, quick personal connections will do the trick for you.
Okay, so speaking on the internet, is it too off topic to be like, internet dropped down, had to jump on my mobile hotspot? Does anyone have any recommendations for unlimited hotspot usage? Can I ask my email list a question that's unrelated just to connect with them, or am I going off the beaten path?
Yes. I'm going to interrupt then because that's so genius, right?
Because I need an answer.
Yes, right. We want that friendship, right? Follower to friend. And when you have a list full of friends, you can have a list full of customers. Why? Because stuff like that opens up conversations. It's never about closing the sale. It's always about opening up a conversation. If I feel like I helped Ben, right? Oh, this is my hotspot situation. I used to be an RV travel blogger. Here's everything I know about Wi-Fi and having backups, bro. Suddenly I feel more connected to Ben. And, maybe this podcast episode he sent out wasn't for me, or this monthly thing wasn't for me, but I'm going to keep opening his emails because now this friendship is starting to form. So that's actually, I'm so glad he brought that up because that's such a little known hack to relate to people in that way and to ask that unrelated, quote unquote, question, right? If I asked like, oh, I just got a puppy. If anybody knows of, some good YouTube channels or hit me up. Anyway, here's 3 tips for subject lines, whatever, right? Suddenly I'm more than just this email lady. Like I'm a real person. I just got a puppy. You might, be a dog trainer. And again, oh my gosh, I know everything about that. And suddenly it's this mutual relationship where, me as the email leader, like I'm helping you with tips, but you get to help me in return. And that is something that you cannot buy with a Facebook ad.
Okay, so we open up the email. We're ourselves, but we're concise. We start a conversation. It's fair to assume someone's not going to put down their novel and start reading our novel because our email is super long. They're probably not going to read it, so we want to keep it simple. The only thing I feel like we didn't touch on much at all is the subject. Like, are people even clicking? Like, I don't want to be spammy, but I also want to grab their attention. Like, any just basic tips for a subject line that is going to get clicked, but also not. YouTube videos do it all the time. It'll promise one thing and it won't give it to me. So I do want them to click on it, but I want to make sure that I'm not promising something or just doing clickbait.
Yeah, that's actually so I live in the United States and one of the only like real laws around email, things are changing, but really it's like the wild, wild west over here, is you cannot be misleading. You can't do what Ben said, have a subject line that says, hurricane, and then you're talking about tornadoes, so to speak, right?
Liz Wilcox taught me how to, this is already too long, but Liz Wilcox taught me how to turn my computer into a money printing machine.
Yes, that's very long. So let's figure out how to condense that, right? Okay,
Yeah.
well, we could go with the first part, Liz Wilcox. Okay, well, what do we know about Liz? Fresh princess of email. That could be a subject line. That's Fresh Princess. That's the weirdest title I've ever heard. Well, what? Let me click on that, right?
Yeah.
It's also relatable. If I'm an 80s or 90s kid, oh, I love the Fresh Princess. Who's that, right? Or it could be the Survivor thing. Liz Wilcox from Survivor. That could be the subject line for an episode like this. Oh, Survivor, because it has notoriety, right? Like, oh, I know it. What? You got to, and then maybe the preview text is like, you'll never believe my next guest, or that could even be the subject line, right? And then in the email, Ben is talking about, oh my gosh, I watched this lady on TV. I can't believe she's finally on my show. It took 6 months to get her on here, or whatever the truth is, right?
Sure.
Or we could go with that second part that Ben said, the money making machine, right? And again, we're talking about condensing. It has to be short, right? So it might be email equals like the cash emoji, right? And then you might put a question mark because people are like, oh, whatever. But the question mark might create intrigue, right? So what I'm doing with all this is, number one, how can we create a little bit of intrigue without being just misleading or very clickbaity, right? Also, I want to keep the subject line short, right?
Sure.
Most people are checking their email on their phone, right? On their mobile device. And so if you had a long subject line, like whatever the heck Ben said, they're not even going to read it. They're going to be able to see like Liz Wilcox is da da da. If they don't know who Liz Wilcox is, what do they care, right? So really making sure maybe it's like 3 to 5 words is usually a pretty good sweet spot with subject lines. But I also recommend writing the email first and like, what's the gist of this email? What did I actually say? And how can if I was just writing to Ben, if I was just writing to Jahara or Carl, what would that subject line be? Right. If it was an episode for this podcast, it might be, have you ever seen Survivor? ? If I was just sending this out to a buddy, something like that, right? So making sure, again, it's short, writing it out and being like, if I was just sending this to my buddy, what would that subject line be? That usually makes it a little simpler.
Yeah, because I'm not going to send my buddies some keyword optimized clickbait. I'm going to be like, have you seen Survivor season 46?
Right. Have you seen this lady? ?
Yeah.
Or have you seen this GIF? Have you seen this meme? That these are all great subject lines for the same email, right? There really are so many. And if you are a person that tends to overthink, I will say just literally write them out like pen and paper or on your Google Drive. And usually, we've already written like 10 or 15, right? And usually by the end, you're like, oh yeah, that's the one. But really remembering it's not this keyword Google thing, right? We aren't being filtered by Google the same way if we write a caption or a blog post, but we are being filtered by a real person in the inbox. We talked about that, right? They're going there for solutions. And so like, oh, if I'm just writing this to Ben, what is going to stand out for Ben?
I don't know if I'm plagiarizing this. Tell me if you've heard it before, but what came to my mind as a marketer is their search engine optimization. This is not SEO, this is HBO. Wait, I'm already plagiarizing HBO as I'm saying it. Human being optimization.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you are plagiarizing it, but I'm writing it down. I'm going to steal it from Ben.
HBO,
so Ben stole it from somebody.
Well, as I said it out
so
loud,
good.
I'm like, HBO. Oh, crap. I can't take HBO, can I?
I think HBO stands for Home Broadcasting Operations or something. No, I love this. HBO, y'all. You heard it here first. I know you're driving, so don't write it down. But yeah, we're not doing SEO. We're doing HBO, Human Being Optimization. That's brilliant.
Let's go.
I love that. Let's go. That's going to be my next podcast episode. And I'll be sure to put Ben in the show notes because I stole the idea from him.
Interesting. And what you said before, we can both cross-channel share to both our email lists. Like, something, oh man, see, this is why so here's the thing. We're podcasting and I tried to think of a brilliant subject line on the spot and I failed. and I stuttered. The beauty of email is I don't have to be perfect on the spot. I can actually sit down and craft that message. As an introvert, I actually really like, Liz, when I don't have to perform the first time. I can sit down and actually look at it and proofread it. So is it fair that if someone's like not a social butterfly, email is actually a good route for them because they have that control?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought this up. I love email for introverts or people, recovering perfectionists, etc. Because, yeah, you can take your time with it. Of course, I don't want you to spend 10 days on one email. Don't overthink it, babe. But you can take your time. You can edit it. And also, it's not like on social media, a lot of us, we use social media to grow, right? To try to find new people. With email, these people have already found us and they've
Mm.
already said, yes, I want to hear more. And so it's less about, oh my gosh, how do I please the algorithm and how do I create something that someone, if they've never seen me before, will follow me? It's, hey, these people already found me. They really like what I have to say and they want more. So again, I'm just talking to somebody I want to be my friend, right? And so it's kind of like hitting the pressure relief valve, right? It's like, instead of, oh my gosh, this is the end all be all. This is the thing that's going to go viral, and I got to dance, I got to lip read, and all of this. It's actually this person wanted to hear from me about the topic of my choice, right? And so this is something I know about, and so, yeah, it just takes the pressure away. So give it a try.
So the listener is at the 45 or 50-minute mark, wherever we are. So they've already found Liz. They already like her. Maybe they like Survivor. Maybe they like Applebee's. Maybe they like Fresh Prince. What album is behind you? What? I see a record behind you.
Oh, yes. So this is NSYNC. I'm a huge NSYNC
Maybe
fan.
they like
If
In
you
Sync.
Yeah, if you go to my website, lizwilcox.com, it like screams Saved by the Bell. So my brand is very 90s. I did just buy a house, so my background is not perfect. But my siblings got me a gold plated limited edition in sync, like their first self-titled album. And it's just super cool. It's a gold plated record. It's like the first of 100 that were created. They found it. It took like 6 months to get to my house. And yeah, I love music. This is another thing to bring it back. Part of that way you can be relatable, right? I started, Fresh
Mhm.
Princess gets you thinking about a certain time in history, right? Having an in sync thing in the background. Oh, gosh, I hated boy bands, or, oh my gosh, Team Backstreet Boys or New Kids on the Block, Boys to Men, like you're already thinking in your head of things that relate to NSYNC, even if you weren't an NSYNC fan, right?
So whether or not you love In Sync or you just like to make money on email, they you teach. I know you have like a paid email, but you have a free one too. What do we do? Because what I want people to do, and I know it won't be exactly what we talked about today, but I want them to subscribe and see what happens in their inbox. Because one thing I encourage people to do is not just click spam, unsubscribe. Like if someone's an email marketer, read their emails. You'll through osmosis pick up some tactical stuff we didn't talk about today. So if they want to subscribe and read your emails, how do they do it? What should they expect?
Yeah, of course. I'm an email marketer. I'd love for you to join my list and see what the heck I'm doing and talking about. You can go to lizwilcox.com. There's a hot pink button in the top right hand corner. You can't miss it. You're going to get a welcome sequence, which we talked a lot about today, Ben's re engagement sequence. The welcome sequence is very eerily similar. So you can use it as a welcome sequence or a re engagement if your list is cold. You're also going to get 3 newsletter samples so you can see what happens after the welcome sequence, and 52 subject lines. We talked a lot about those today. I'm
Wow.
giving you 52 of them. That's all for free. So when you join my list, you will see that welcome sequence I give you is the exact welcome sequence I use myself. So
Mm.
you'll be able to see it in action. And then I send once a week sometimes more, depending on the time of year, emails that hopefully, yeah, I always say, like, please, if you see the email and you see how it can apply to your business, steal it. I'm writing it for you. I want you to use it. Again, that's lizwilcox.com, hot pink button.
I want a subject line, steal this email.
That's actually that's a good one. I'm going to write that one down too. Maybe I'll write an email today. Actually, I did write an email. So I'm experimenting right now, not to go off on a tangent. I'm experimenting with one word subject lines. I've been doing it for almost a month where it's just the one word. And I wrote one a few weeks ago and the subject line was steal. And it was about me stealing someone else's idea and using it. I gave them credit. I said, "Oh, I was listening to Brock Johnson the other day and he told me XYZ. So let's just do that." And it performed really well.
Huh. I love the tangent. For the person who's setting up email, like they're writing their welcome sequence, don't get creative too soon. If I were to put out my first out ever email and it just said steal, would it work? Are we getting too high level? Like, what are your thoughts on this? I want to make sure I don't encourage someone to
Yeah.
use a one word email and then I don't want it to land flat.
Yeah,
on me.
that's something I'm experimenting with. I would suggest using one word subject lines if you've been emailing consistently,
Okay.
just as a way to break your own pattern. And don't do them every week. That's just something I'm experimenting with. I haven't, had a conclusion from the experiment yet. So maybe I'll come back in a few months and let y'all know how it went. But with subject lines, you just want to vary it, right? We talked a lot about 3 to 5 words. Maybe it's one word one week. Maybe it's 7 words the next week, right? You do want to vary your content. That's with anything, right? But yeah, don't get too creative too fast. Only because I want you to stay consistent. I want you to build this muscle, right? So don't worry. The same way I told Ben, well, don't worry about being interesting right now. We're just putting in the reps, babe. We're just trying to get people to notice. We can get creative. We can vary later. We just want to put in the reps right now.
Cool. So lizwilcox.com, go click that big pink button in the top corner. Impossible to miss. I'm going to continue to support you. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that I can support you with? Or is that the go-to?
Yeah, that's the go-to. But of course, if you want me to just write your emails for you, I have a $9 a month membership.
Oh, that
It
sounds way
gives,
easier. That sounds
yeah,
way
yeah.
easier, Liz.
Right. And the $9 a month membership, you get a weekly newsletter template that you can take and make your own. I have all sorts of members in there. I have coaches, consultants. I even have a nun in the membership that sells children's books. So there's lots of different examples in there. You get the entire library and a new one every single week, once a month Q&As, all that jazz. It's $9 a month. Again, you can go to lizwilcox.com and there's a yellow top menu and you can check that out there if you're interested in, hunkering down, doing the work, being consistent, like we just mentioned, for $9 a month. You can't really beat it.
I'm going to do that one, Liz. I want to meet the
Okay,
nun.
great. Yeah, Mother Melania. We love her. She's great.
Well,
That'd be awesome.
I'll release you from this podcast because I know you're on like a crazy media tour. You're a superstar now. Sir Liz Wilcox, how many .0s are you at?
What do you mean?
I almost said Liz Wilcox 2.0, but I feel like by now you're at like the 8th or 9th model.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm teleporting through different timelines of my own life. Does that make sense? That's a whole different topic there. I feel like I'm maybe like a 2.8 version.
Liz Wilcox 2.8.
You
I
heard it
gotta.
here first, folks.
That was one of the worst jobs I've ever done closing a podcast, Liz. I probably should have just said, thanks for coming on the show. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Well, and on that note, I can't wait to see what everybody does with email. Thanks, Ben.
Same. Peace.